I'm a guy, and I've always felt that it wasn't fair that women have to pay for that shit. So, I not once have actually rung up a women's pads or tampons when checking them out. My manager I think knows but she doesn't care. Edit, wow, I didn't think people would get so bothered over this email. Started competing under USAG at age 5. At age 6 I moved gyms to train and compete with an elite twinning program. Just so happened to be the very gym that NASA practiced out of for many years, Twistars Gymnastics. I'm sure a majority of you reading this know of the hundreds and hundreds of female gymnasts that were abused by this evil fucking person. Well, I'm publicly coming out and sharing that for the 9 years I trained and competed for this organization, I was sexually abused and molested on an almost constant weekly basis. There is no talk of male victims and I know firsthand that this happened to other male teammates of mine. I have been silenced by the Michigan Attorney Generals, the handful of special detectives I was working with and every other governing body you can think of. My attorneys have dropped my case because there's not enough victims. So if only more little boys were molested I may be taken seriously, that's what you're telling me? My voice has been taken from me, so the only way for me to break the silence and seek some sort of justice and to create a platform for other male victims to safely get the help they desperately need without having to do so publicly is by me going public with the truth so I can no longer be ignored. I have no idea where to start, so I figured Reddit to be the best place since it's fairly anonymous. Thank you for reading and for the support. People need to know that there are men out there suffering in silence right now because of this man and the various programs involved. Please help me from this getting swept under the rug. I was 14 at the time this happened. I used to have one sibling, my younger brother. He was super chill and never really pissed me off like regular younger brothers. He was about 11 years old when he met a girl, we'll call her Michelle. They were super close and ended up dating. This was super shocking to my father and I because he's always quiet. We never saw him pulling a girl. I never got picky with their relationship because who honestly cares? Couple months go by, they're fine. But my father and I started to realize his temper and how much he pissed the bed. This wasn't him, he's always been okay. This went on for weeks. It got to the point where we had to look through his phone. It was all normal at first. Instagram, okay. Snapchat, fine. But messages is what made our jaws drop. There were consistent messages of this girl saying she was gonna kill herself. At least once a week. We were gonna tell him to not buy it because we knew they were all fake, but if he found out we were looking through his phone he would have lost it. So we just made sure he was okay for a couple of days. Until one day, he went missing. We searched for so many hours but couldn't find him. We got so concerned that we were asking the neighbors to see if they have seen him. More hours go by and we honestly cannot find him. It was midnight on a school day. My dad told me to go back home and try and get some sleep. I eventually did but didn't go to school. I was near my phone all day waiting for a phone call from my dad because he was still trying to find him. 12 p.m., finally, a call. I had so much high hopes that they had found him. I was wrong. My dad had told me that he drowned himself in a lake in a park near town. I didn't believe it, I refused to believe it. He randomly hung up. I was like a statue. Thinking I never got to say bye. I cried for hours. I was waiting for my dad to get home. When he did, we hugged and never slept that night. He had contacted the school saying I'll be away for a couple of months. After 10 long days of misery, not leaving my bed and not going on my phone, we got a call from 911. They knew the reason this had happened. Michelle said she was gonna do it again. Younger brother got worried because she wasn't replying for hours. He ran away to visit her house to see if she was home. They weren't. What he didn't know was that she was going out for dinner for her grandma's birthday. He then eventually drowned herself. Her mother that day had tried to make her apologize on our porch, and in which she did, a lot. I told her you killed my brother, fucking monster. And slammed the door shut on her face. I didn't give a shit. I am now 18 and healthy. I am back in school with good grades and good friends. Michelle is now 15 and she still apologizes to me and my dad. I'm never forgiving her. Edit, thank you all for the condolences and upvotes. I didn't expect this to blow up. However, I have been getting a ton of comments saying I'm making things up because of the Michelle apologizing part. I didn't explain it better, so I will now. Michelle found out the news late. She wanted to know everything about what happened. She knew he drowned, but she didn't know why. Her parents looked through her phone to I guess try and find something out of it before his death. They did investigating and everything matched. Yes, she got a shit ton of punishments. I was told that. Michelle was devastated knowing the death was on her hands. She was dying to get contact out of me and my dad. But we were too miserable to look through our shitty notifications or calls. I'm assuming Michelle told her parents to help by dropping her off the front porch to apologize. I know I said her parents made her, but I used the wrong words, which I apologize for. Thank you. Less than 3. Didn't know what subreddit to post on, so I just decided to post here lol. I don't care about Ukraine in the same way I didn't care about the US invading the Middle East. Big country exploits small country for personal gain. What's new? Should I care because it's different this time? It isn't. It's the same thing that's been happening for all of human history. If you fiercely oppose Russia but sat idle while the US exploited the Middle East, you have no common sense and no real values. You are also easily manipulated by the media. There's no way in hell you didn't know the US was carpet bombing civilians in the Middle East for 20 years in a war they started to rob the region's natural oil reserves. You either oppose military exploitation or you don't. You can't pick and choose when it's okay and when it isn't. I, F26, am a fresh doctor that recently started working in the internal medicine ward. We had an elderly patient admitted for a couple of months and his son would visit him 3-5 times a week. He was a handsome gentleman in his 30s, very tall, about 6 feet 2 inches, and well built. For reference, I'm 4 feet 11 inches and petite, with features that make me look younger than I am. The first time we met, he was in his father's room, and briefly stepped out to look for a paper cup. I happened to be at a workstation right next to his father's room, so he asked me where he could find a paper cup he could use to brush his father's teeth. I told him I'd bring him one and left my desktop to ask a nurse for the same. She told me they ran out of them at the ward, and that he should get one from the cafeteria. I quickly went to the cafeteria, which was only 2 floors up, and brought back a paper cup. When I handed it to him, he was so grateful and said that he didn't expect a doctor to go out of the way to help him with something so trivial. Me being the youngest and most junior in my team, I'm used to doing this sort of work. I reassured him that I'm happy to do it. He then introduced himself to me and squatted down next to me so we would be at eye level since he was so tall and I was sitting while working on the desktop. He described his concerns about his father's condition. Since I was not the assigned doctor for his father, I didn't have all the details regarding his status or management, so I introduced him to the assigned doctor and then left to continue my work. We met whenever he would come to visit his father, and we would exchange niceties, and that was it. Then he caught me off guard once when I was done with my shift and waiting for my ride in front of the hospital. He sat next to me on the bench I was seated at and we had a long conversation, this time about his work and hobbies. He said he was an engineer working in a construction company. I engaged in dialogue, but it never felt like flirting, and I never got the feeling he was interested in me. He ended the conversation by giving me his business card and then quickly touched my back while saying goodbye. The next day, he came to see his father and he came to greet me. He squatted down beside me again as I was sitting and working on my desktop. He asked me if I still had his card, and I said I did. He told me that he was looking forward to hearing from me and for us to get to know each other. He mentioned he was single and available, and if I was too, I should consider giving him a call. I was so flustered I could only bring myself to say that I was too busy to commit to anything. He said he understood, smiled and touched my back again before saying goodbye and wishing me all the best. A few days later, his father was discharged, and I haven't seen him since. I still have his card and I'm very tempted to send him a text. I've masturbated many times over the last couple of weeks thinking about him, how he towered over me, his strong hands as they grazed my back, his kind and appreciative words, his fresh scent. I'm so conflicted because it's not ethical, but I also feel I let him get away.